El Cubano is leading us off. Hola, Ariel. Let's fast forward to this weekend and to the long-awaited main event fight between Charles Oliveira and Islam Makhachev. Hypothetically, if Oliveira were to not only win, but do so in spectacular fashion and finish Islam, how would you write his post-fight promo if given the chance? Wow. I actually like this. I feel like the wheels are turning right now. Let me just finish the question. Do you take advantage of having Khabib being present in the corner of his defeated protege in his own backyard and call him out? What? In the corner of his defeated protege. Oh, if this is Oliver, I kind of like it if it's Islam. Anyway, I'll keep reading. Do you call out Volkanovski for stepping up to the plate? Would you seek the money fight with McGregor? Would you just state your claim as the champion and leave it open? All right. Truly feels like there's just so many ways Charles can decide to take it if he were to remain champion. Viva Helwani. All right. I will say this. If I'm Charles Oliveira and I win the belt and I'm super hyped on Saturday, there's actually a lot of different routes to take if you're both Charles and Islam. But if I'm Charles, I say, and let's just pretend he's, speaking English here. Oh, Charles, you won the fight. Let me tell you something, Joe. They tried to screw me in May. The Arizona Commission, they were crooked as can be. They tried to rob me of something that I earned with my blood, my sweat, my tears. But as you know, the belt don't lie. And in this moment, the belt has come back home like a magnet. Like a magnet on a refrigerator. The belt has come back to its rightful owner. They all said that Islam Makhachev had the style to beat me. They all said that he had the kryptonite to beat my Superman. Nope. 12 in a row, Joe. 12 in a row. They've tried to take me down. They said that I was the old Charles Oliveira. They said that I was the 500 Charles Oliveira. I am the greatest lightweight champion of all time. No one has faced the murderer's row that I have faced. And so now we turn our attention, Joe. I don't care if you have another question. We turn our attention to what's next. Because I know you're going to ask me that. Well, I got to tell you, there's a date in January in my country, because for the last 3 years, I couldn't defend this title in my country. I've had to go and defend the title and fight other people in their country. No more. In January, I'm coming home. Yes, tell P. Diddy I'm coming home. I'm coming home. Tell the world I'm coming home. I'm going to defend my title in my country, in Brazil. I'm going to go home and I'm going to shower myself in acai, and the people are going to serenade me and they are going to fed me. And I would say to anyone out there, take a number. Khabib, I just beat your boy. You want some of this? You don't want anything close to this. Stay retired. All right? Conor McGregor, you want some of this? I'm the money fight now. I'll consider you if you beg. Alex Volkanovski, you've been trying to steal my shine all week here in Abu Dhabi. You want some of this? Great. Come to Brazil. I ain't going to Perth. None of this nonsense of me going to Australia. I'm the champ. It's my belt. It's my division. I'll see you in January. Anyone else? Take a number and call my people. For now, I'm going to celebrate on the beaches of Rio de Janeiro. Woo! I mean, that's a good promo, is it not? I feel like that's a pretty damn good promo. Now, if I'm Islam, you say kind of the same thing, but wouldn't it be something if Islam then turns on Khabib, like hits him on the back of the head with the belt and said, you've been trying to steal my shine. You think that I'm walking in your footsteps? No, I know he would never do that. I'm kidding. But it would be something else. If I'm Islam, it's probably going to be a very emotional promo. This is for my team. This is for my family. This is for the late, great Abdulmanap. We are now back on top. The belt would have always stayed with this team if my mentor remained in the division, in the sport. But now it's my turn to take the baton, to take the mantle, and to be the champion that I've always known that I could be. Everyone, whether it's Volkanovski, whether it's Charles rematch, whether it's Dustin, whether it's Chandler, whether it's Gaethje, whether it's Conor, I don't care. Take a number. I'll see you when I see you. Now, I got to tell you this. If Charles wins, the Volkanovski 55 stuff gets super, super interesting. Gets super interesting because you have to have Charles fight in Brazil. If Makhachev wins, I feel like you could do Islam versus Volkanovski in Australia and have Charles fight, in Brazil, just in a regular fight. If Charles wins, then maybe they just do Charles 55 and Volkanovski 45 in Perth. It gets really interesting if Charles wins because, as we talked about on Monday, those two events are back-to-back. James says, what is up, Ariel? It's finally UFC 280 fight week, which feels like we've been looking forward to for a long time now, and it has remained intact. Pretty amazingly. But today my question is about the UFC's recent press release that prohibits fighters from betting on any UFC fights. Yes, we reported this on Monday after the show. Now, I understand that in the NFL, NBA, and other major sports leagues, the players are not allowed to bet on anything related to their league or organization. Correct. But man, it just feels like more and more the UFC is taking away things from the fighters while the company is benefiting from that same thing that they are taking away. How much longer until the fighters and or managers actually do something about it, if ever? And we really couldn't think of a better name than Dana White's Power Slap League. Oh, two very juicy topics here from James. First of all, GC is our resident betting expert. What did you make of this news that came out on, when was it? Monday afternoon. That, and let me read it for those that may have missed it. This was an internal memo that was sent out to the UFC fighters and managers. We are writing to advise you of a change to the UFC athlete conduct policy to which each UFC athlete subscribes under our promotional agreement and or ancillary rights agreement. I'm just going to read the bolded parts of this because it's pretty long. In light of clear direction that we received from regulators responsible for the regulated sports betting industry in the United States, we are compelled at this time to recognize in the UFC athlete conduct policy certain restrictions relating to wagering by our athletes, members of their teams, and certain others. In order to assist our athletes in understanding their obligations under the laws of the majority of states in which sports betting is permitted, and in further support of these integrity measures, UFC has incorporated a wagering prohibition into the UFC athlete conduct policy, expressly prohibiting athletes from wagering on any UFC match. Note, this policy doesn't prohibit athletes from entering into sponsorship agreements with sports betting companies. UFC athletes may continue to pursue such sponsorships in accordance with applicable law. So, in essence, fighters can no longer bet on not only fights that they're involved in, which, yeah, is super dicey, but any UFC fight ever. Now, you see this all the time. Bet Online, DraftKings, BetMGM, like they're all over the place. And fighters are making a lot of money off of these. Potty Match, what's the one in Canada? Bet99, I think it is. Anyway, there's a ton of them and fighters are making a lot of money. GC, what do you make of this new rule from the UFC, not only prohibiting the fighters, but everyone associated with them, coaches, etc.?
Yeah, so I understand not being able to bet on your own fights, though I always did love when a fighter would take themselves as kind of like a double down and then they would win. That would be fantastic. But not being able to bet on any fights, period, is tough because I know that there are fighters out there that like to bet. Like Jordan Levitt has a Bet MMA Tips profile. I think I've seen Sayud Kakramanov posting slips before. So them losing out on the ability to bet on fights, period, I mean, I think that stinks because obviously they love the sport and betting brings them some enjoyment, makes the fights more fun on the weekend. So that's rough for them. And then obviously with the team, the first person you think of is James Krause.
Yeah. People were calling it the James Krause rule.
Yeah, I mean he's got the
Discord.
The Discord, the website set up. He's got all these members. I don't know if he can still give out tips. Like, is that something that he can do and just not take it? But
how are you going to police this?
Yeah, how do you police this? Like,
now, Chris Weidman told me that, and Chris Wade as well, they can't bet on DraftKings because they're, I guess, fighters. Like, he can't bet on the NFL.
Oh, so he can't bet on anything.
Like, he's like almost been banned from it because it's easier to just like not allow him. I don't know how they even know this, police this, but they were talking about it in my mentions. I feel like it's and I was actually surprised, and kudos to a lot of fighters. Casey O'Neill mentioned it. There were a bunch of them that retweeted, and who's one? I'm blanking. Jeff Molina was talking about it a lot. How are you going to police this unless you just go ahead and ban them from using the app, which is tough. But again, it brings up, once again, are they independent contractors or are they employees? Now, if you're an employee and there's an employee rule book. You have to adhere to it. If you're an independent, there's a guy literally coming right now to fix my garage. My garage is broken. That guy told me he's going to be there from 12 to 2. From 12 to 2, once he gets to my house, let's say it's at 1, and he's working there till 2, he's working for me. Once he's done the job, I can't tell this guy what to do, where to be, anything like that. That's an independent contractor. UFC fighters continuously are not treated like independent contractors. Now, you see, I didn't really make a big fuss over this. I do feel like the integrity of the sport needs to remain as, pure as possible. In other words, I do feel a little weird about people betting on their own fights, win or lose, because maybe you have an agreement with another guy. Like, I feel like an appropriate thing would be, you can't bet on your own fight, win or lose. And maybe it goes as far as to say, like, you can't bet on your teammate's fight or your training partner's fight. But if Casey O'Neill, for example, I'm just using her because she tweeted about it, if she wants to bet on Oliveira Makhachev and she has no ties to that fight, what's wrong with that? I don't get it. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Like, Josh Allen, he can't bet on Cardinals Vikings, right?
No, there's no way. So it's actually interesting that you brought that up in the employee thing. Like, my roommate used to be an employee for the NFL.
Yeah.
And they had a policy where not only could he not bet on the NFL, he couldn't bet on anything. Like, he couldn't even
NBA?
join nothing. Yeah, he couldn't even join our daily fantasy league for the MMA hour. He's
wow.
like, I can't do it. It's an employee violation. But he was an employee of the NFL.
Exactly.
Not an independent contractor. So that's interesting that you brought that up.
Yeah.
I agree. Why can't Casey O'Neill bet on the main event this weekend?
And also, other than just banning them from using all the sites, and now you're talking about them potentially losing opportunities. And I know they say you can still be sponsored. I get it, but maybe someone wants them to bet. I don't know. Show their slips. It's strange to me that they would go that far. I do agree that there should be a line, and I thought the line would be a fight that you're involved in. You have ties to whatever. To me, the bigger question is, again, are they contractors or are they employees? Time and again, it seems like they're employees. They're told what to wear. They're told where to be. They have to tell their employer essentially where they are at all times. They have to be drug tested. They now can't bet on fights. They can have sponsors of their own. Like, and the list goes on and on. They're employees. You were going to say something?
Does it really stop them from betting, or does it stop them from talking about betting and promoting it?
But again, what if, like what Weidman was saying, what if they get banned from all the sites?
Right, that would be...
And I don't even know how you go about doing that.
Well, it seems like all the books have, like, your personal information, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Like your license and that sort of thing.
Now, what if, now you have to go around, like, it's legal in 31 states, I believe it is now, and DC. Now you have to get your wife to do it or something?
That's what I'm saying. Like, it doesn't actually physically stop them from doing it, but they won't be posting about it. I don't know.
It's a weird one, and a lot of fighters seem to be a little annoyed. And by the way, I know a lot of fighters who make a lot of money off of betting. Now, at least they're not going as far, like you said, your roommate, GC, like at least they could still bet on the NFL, right? At least it's not just like a blanket rule. But it is a tough one. You're fighting for these guys 3 times, if that, a year, and there's all these restrictions. Now, as far as the Power Slap League is concerned, remember, I reported this months and months ago that they had already filmed fights. They have broadcasters. They were doing them at the Apex. Dana White is involved. The Fertittas are investing in it. This is like a new project for them. And the Apex is actually, I was going on and on about the Apex on Monday. The Apex is the perfect venue for something like this. Apex is perfect for Contender Series, for grappling, for slap fighting, not regular UFC fights anymore, at least, and hopefully never again, with no more pandemics in our lifetime. That being said, how do I feel about all of this? Very interesting question. You cannot tell me anymore. Look, I don't watch. I see a bunch of clips here or there. I don't think that this is going to become a thing. I don't think it has the longevity. I don't think there's enough interest. It is very, very niche, and it almost feels like it's built for TikTok or Instagram, right? It's built to have that, 1 minute, if that, highlight, and that's it. I can't see people getting emotionally invested in stories, in fighters, in feuds, in rivalries. It's, first of all, there's enough out there in terms of fighting, boxing, wrestling, kickboxing. People aren't going to get into it. At least that's my opinion. It's interesting, though, they made this big stink about getting into boxing. Zuffa boxing never took off. because there's already a century-long system in place where boxers are making a lot of money, and so they realize, gosh, we can't, have the same restrictions that we do in the world of UFC and then bring it over to boxing. Let's bring it to something that's in its infancy and, try to dominate that world. All right, cool. Good luck with that. That being said, you can never talk to us about your interest and your passion and your desire to keep fighters as healthy as possible and to shy away from brain trauma, brain injury, and CTE and concussions, and then go and promote slap fighting. Because in the sport of fighting, like boxing, MMA, defense is paramount, right? Like you're supposed to not try to get hit. Of course, knockouts, all that type of stuff, they're promoted. But ultimately, what we want are for the fighters to be safe and healthy. Here, there's nothing else. Defense is not promoted. There is no defense. You just have to take it. You just have to literally take it and hope that you don't get knocked out. So, look, it's one thing for the UFC or to, for Dana White and the Fertittas to want to get behind it. God bless. You can try to do as many businesses as possible. I do think it's really interesting that the Nevada Athletic Commission, which is supposed to be, the government, an independent body, if you will, that they've approved it. Now, obviously, we know that there are very close ties between Nevada and the UFC. There's a reason why Bellator doesn't go to Nevada. There's a reason why PFL isn't going to Nevada anymore. There's a reason why pretty much no major MMA promotion will go there. It's UFC country, and that's fine. They were there first. Them's the rules, right? That's how the game is played. But now, were they going to sanction this if it was some other guy coming in? I don't know. I wonder. And I wonder how they feel about, when they talk to us about safety, health and safety and all that stuff. Feels a little hypocritical to then say, all right, we're going to take this thing, sanction it, and let people get nailed in the head repeatedly. Let's see how they regulate it. I personally don't think that there's longevity. I don't think there's enough interest. It feels like something that you see on Instagram or TikTok and be like, that's awesome. Let's sink our teeth into this. And then, over time we're like, it's just a thing where people are slapping each other really, really hard. I don't know. Do you guys like it? Do you guys watch it? GC, you watch this?
Nah, I don't know how into it I would get. I kind of agree with you. I'd probably watch one or two, and then how many times you kind of fade off? Yeah,
like the beauty of MMA. There's the grappling. There's the Muay Thai. There's in boxing. There's the defense. There's the offense. There's the highs. There's the lows. This is just repeated slaps. And James is asking, is there a better name? Well, they can't call it slap fighting because that's probably trademarked by someone, and they want to trademark their own name. So Dana White's Power Slap League, which again, he's the big star, just like Contender Series, attach his name to it, his brand. But I'm curious if they have success. They tried to do the boxing reality show, didn't work out. This, what this feels like? If you're an old school wrestling fan, this feels like when Vince McMahon got into the world of bodybuilding. Vince McMahon had his own bodybuilding league, the IBF, and the International Bodybuilding Federation, and they promoted the hell out of it. And of course, later on, the XFL too. And what happened to those two? Just because you were successful at one thing doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be successful at another thing. Sometimes it's best to be, focus on that thing. Stick to your bread and butter. Now, they've already won this race. They're successful. So God bless for trying to do something else. It isn't boxing. It's slap fighting. I don't have the confidence that it's going to be a thing. I'm not that bullish on it, but what the hell do I know? I just think in this day and age where concussions, brain injury, CTE, all that stuff seem to be the hot topics that everyone is quote unquote worried about in positions of power. Now you're going to introduce this. Feels like a bit of a hypocritical stance. My old friend TST asks, so you say that the UFC chooses to stay at the Apex for financial reasons. Can we dig into that a little more? Is it actually more profitable to stay at the Apex than go on the road? I'm probably totally off here, but let's just say it costs the UFC $200,000 to put on an Apex show. Does it even cost that much? I mean, they own the building. All the staff members are theirs. I don't even know if it would cost that. I mean, turn on the lights, this, that, and the other. And of course, there's travel involved, but there'd be $200,000 seems like a lot, but all right. And they bring in $500,000. And I don't even know if that's the number. But anyway, when they go to Orlando, sure, it'll cost them $1 million to put it on, but they'll bring in $2 million in profits. Maybe. I mean, not all of those fight nights are making $2 million. There was a time when they were making 500, 600, 700,000 in gate revenue. So they spend more to go on the road, but also make more in return. Does it work anything like that, or am I totally off? Look, they own that building. The hotel they've rented out. Now, they had them go to different hotels, but it's like, you know, they're either staying at the Fertitta Hotel, the Red Rock, or somewhere nearby. They don't have to travel any of the staff members. They all live in Las Vegas. Everything is there. The lighting, the cage, the production, the control, like the set, the pre and post, like it's all there. And let me just be very clear about the Apex. I think the Apex is one of the smartest things that the UFC has ever built. I think it's one of the greatest investments they ever built, including the PI as well. Like those two things, who would have ever thought that they'd be in a position where they had to use it because of a pandemic? So let me be very clear. It's a brilliant thing. WWE has their own version of it called the Performance Center, and it's smart for them to have it as well. What I don't like is now that we've, gotten out there and the world is open and all this stuff, ESPN is paying them for 43 events, give or take one or two, a year, and they get paid pretty well. It's the greatest TV deal that they've ever had, over $1 billion. Until ESPN, essentially, who are the ones that are kind of dictating this deal. Of course, they have other broadcast partners, but until ESPN says, look, we want a better product. We want the glitz, the glamour, the hype, the atmosphere. We want that back. UFC is going to stay at the Apex. Now, maybe it'll be less and less shows, but once, twice a month, they're going to be at the Apex. Because the UFC is like, yo, we're good to stay here. And my impression as of right now is that the brass at ESPN actually doesn't mind, that they're thankful for the Apex. The Apex kept it going in the pandemic days. Don't speak ill of it. So until they say, guys, we this is an ESPN product. You turn on Top Rank Boxing, you turn on Matchroom Boxing, you turn on, PBC, you turn on pro wrestling, you turn on college football, you turn on baseball, basketball, football, hockey. It's all in packed arenas. Why are we still doing this? Until that happens, and I don't see it happening right now, they're going to stay at the Apex because they're saving a lot of money and they're making all that money from the broadcast deals, not having to take the show on the road. It is very expensive to take that show on the road. First of all, marketing, ticket sales, the crew, the arena rental, to put in everything, your grid, your lighting, your cage, build all that stuff, unload, pack, the TV trucks. I mean, it costs millions of dollars to do this. I think TSD, classic minimalist move, is doing this very, very cheaply. It's a very expensive proposition. Now, they're making a lot of money off of it, and make no mistake about it, they're getting money to do all this, but you could stay in your home base. Dana always used to mention the lazy people out there who want to stay home and do, meetings via Zoom in their pajamas. I'm sorry, but doing events at the Apex at this point is equivalent to doing your meetings at home via Zoom in your pajamas. Am I wrong? Am I being a hater for saying that?
You're not wrong.
Am I being a hater? It's like you can't say anything anymore without being called a hater. What's the difference? Tell me what's the difference. There's no difference. Adriano. Hi, Ariel. 2 wrestling questions this week for you. Wanted to get your thoughts on this past episode of AEW with MJF and William Regal. Do you think it's a shoot, or is AEW making MJF have creative control over his last year of the contract? Second question is, heading into WrestleMania, Jey Uso turns on Roman by bringing back the most electrifying man in sports entertainment, the People's Champion, The Rock. Hope you do it in his voice. Is that a possibility? Just kind of confused about where the Bloodline storyline is going. Surely they won't let Jey turn on Roman at Crown Jewel and let Logan Paul win the title, will they? And then, all right, there's a follow-up there. Let me answer the first part first. Like I said this morning, MJF, right now the 2 most entertaining people in wrestling, if you ask me, are MJF and Sami Zayn. And I think, I threw this out there, if I was a part of a draft where every wrestler under the sun was available and I was starting a new promotion, it was like this expansion draft, but everyone was available, who would my first pick be? It would be MJF, Maxwell Jacob Friedman. He's 26. He is unbelievable on the mic. He's the one guy and there are several, but like he is the guy who is taking the sport, I feel like, the industry, the business, to a different place where we haven't seen it go in quite some time. He reminds me of a prime Roddy Piper. He never breaks kayfabe. He always blurs the line. The stuff that he's doing with the contract, which again, why it was so frustrating that Tony wouldn't talk about it, was he's talking about it on their show. So if that's okay, which we know a lot of that is wink, wink, nudge, nudge, but it's brilliant. The bidding war of 2024, it's all brilliant, and it's stuff no one has done in a very, very long time, if ever. He's an unbelievable talent. Now, of course, there are other people that I would, look at as well. He's amazing. Sami Zayn is amazing. Bray Wyatt is amazing. Bianca Belair, Becky Lynch, Montez Ford, Hook. I mean, there's an incredible amount of young talent right now. But I just think MJF, like you see that segment yesterday with William Regal, why was it so great? There was passion, there was authenticity, but it felt real. He was talking about real things. The email that he got when he was turned down, Regal being, old and recently fired and being like this gnat who won't go away, and the rest, like it was all tremendous. That's why we love wrestling. When Bray Wyatt comes out on Friday and starts talking about the past year and how depressed he was, you're not sure, is this real? Is it not? Is it a work or a shoot? And so again, when I spoke last week about the WWE product being better, that can change every week. Right now, they're on a hot streak. But, talk to me in 3 weeks and that will change. Just like I said, and why I thought it was so funny that people were so mad about what I said, when I said a month ago, 2 months ago, that the AEW product was infinitely better. It always changes. And that's why it's fun to have two great promotions. And that's what I wish we had in MMA, where if we had Bellator on fire, PFL on fire, one championship, someone on fire to push the UFC to not do events at the Apex, to not rest on their laurels, to not be lazy, that would be great. But they don't have to, because no one's nipping at their heels right now. WWE has AEW nipping at their heels. And so you have to push the envelope. You have to come up with interesting, fun, different storylines. You have to bring back guys like Bray Wyatt and other big names that they let go. You have to be on top of your game. So, I know no one listened to that or just chose to not pay attention to that. Just like I know they didn't actually watch the whole Triple H interview, because I did ask them a lot of the things that they said I didn't ask. Just like I know they didn't watch the entire Tony Khan interview. So I don't get too worked up over all that stuff. But it was a little bit like, am I living in some sort of bizarro world here? Anyway, that was amazing theater, and I highly, highly, highly suggest that you check it out if you missed it. As far as the second question is concerned, I don't think there should be any worry regarding the Bloodline. The Bloodline is in a great spot right now because you have the whole Sami Zayn dynamic, and at some point you'd think they are going to turn on him, but I wouldn't do it anytime soon because it's going so well, and it's probably the most interesting thing on WWE. Oh, Seth Rollins is another name, Kevin Owens on WWE. So no, I would have Roman definitely beat Logan, and I would keep this going until WrestleMania. The Rock doesn't need anyone to bring him back. It could be a thing where Roman starts just like abusing the Bloodline and beating up Jay and being mean to, Solo and all this stuff. And then The Rock is like, enough of this crap. You're not the head of the table. I am. I'm the tribal chief. Like, you don't need any reason to bring back The Rock. So I wouldn't worry about all of that. Sami Zayn is incredible in that story. Perry says, this morning you had a tweet about who you would start a wrestling promotion with and chose MJF. What's your reasoning behind this, and why are you not acknowledging the head of the table, Roman Reigns? He's a hell of a lot younger. I feel like that's the thing that some people missed. You're starting a promotion. You want someone who's going to be around for 10 to 15 years. Is Roman going to be around for 10 to 15 years? Well, maybe in wrestling, but he's in his, mid 30s. So you got to go with the younger star with the massive upside in his favor. And I just think he's incredible on the mic. I think he's absolutely incredible on the mic. I think he is riveting. Anytime I come across anything MJF related, interview, promo, match, I'm watching it. That's my rule. He is just amazing. Danny, my dear friend Ariel. One last thing on that AEW thing. Can I say one more thing, Frank, if I may?
Absolutely.
I saw a lot of people say, Ariel, didn't you know he couldn't answer any of... And people are going to be like, he's so mad. He's so mad. I'm really not mad. I think this is a fascinating discussion to have. But I have been seeing a lot of people say, didn't you know he couldn't answer any of those questions because it was a legal matter? It was a legal matter. I kept hearing this thing, legal. My follow-up to that is, A, how do you guys know it's a legal matter? Have you been told it's a legal matter by who? Have you been told by some wrestling websites, or were you told by AEW? Were you told in a statement? Were you told by Tony Khan? Were you told by anyone involved? Were you told by the brass? Were you told by Tony Khan? I have not seen any of that. So how do you know for certain that there's a legal investigation? And by the way, if it's an internal investigation, if it's a third-party investigation, if it's a Warner Brothers Discovery investigation, that's not a legal matter. That's an internal thing that they're dealing with. So there's nothing legal about that until someone comes out and tells me that there's a legal investigation that the police, and I believe actually the police in Chicago has already said, correct me if I'm wrong, that they are not investigating this. What's the sort of legal component to all of this? And if there is, like, I saw something with Draymond Green punching Jordan Poole on video. I saw a clip of it. What happened 2 days later? Steve Kerr talks about it. Draymond talks about it. The Warriors put out a statement about it. Everyone spoke about it. What's the difference in that and that? What's the difference in what we think happened in Chicago, the alleged incident that we have no footage of, and the actual incident that we have footage of? That's how you handle those situations. You come out, you say what you want to say, and then you move on and say you're not talking about it anymore. But to just say it's a legal thing when no one has actually told us or confirmed with us that there's an actual legal investigation going on, where's the proof? Is it like wrestlingwebsite.com that reported it? And if so, what's the status of said legal investigation? And even if there is a legal investigation, why can't you talk about it? Why can't you say anything about it? And oh, by the way, as I mentioned multiple times, the only thing that had any sort of legality attached to it was the Punk question, which maybe was 90 seconds of a hour and 15-minute interview. The rest, nothing legal. So I think it's funny how everyone's defending their guy, and I actually appreciate that loyalty. I respect it. But you're all off base. You're a liar if you thought that was a good interview. Danny. My dear friend Ariel, what are your thoughts on Dana's comments comparing this Suga versus Petr fight to Conor versus Aldo? Sounds like he's looking to build Suga up for the moment of all moments and almost setting Petr up for a catastrophic defeat. Let's say he is right. How do you see the TJ versus Aldo fight panning out? And what chances do you give Suga against either of those guys with the belt on the line? Shout out to GC Frank and Rick as well. Let's get the Parlay Pals back on the straight and narrow. I'm going to go as far as to say I'm guaranteeing victory this weekend. I'm taking a page out of Patrick Ewing's book, and I'm going to guarantee victory. Now, did Dana really say this, GC? Have you seen these comments comparing Suga, Petr versus Conor Aldo, or to Conor versus Aldo?
I want to say it was in an interview with Robbie Fox.
Now, I can't believe that he would actually Conor.
I think he was saying in terms of Suga's capability of becoming a superstar, like he is saying that if he beats Petr Yan, especially in emphatic fashion on Saturday, like he is going to explode even more than he already has.
So I see a quote here. It is with the great Robbie Fox of Barstool Sports. Quote, there was this comparison recently where Sean O'Malley said, I would love to be the next Conor McGregor and be a big global superstar. Well, it's about winning key fights. He's already got that thing that people like about him. Now it's about winning the key fights. This fight for him is like Conor's Jose Aldo fight. All right. So again, I feel like I'm being sort of baited here a little bit to crap on Dana, but I feel like the actual quote matters. I disagree with the notion that this is the same for Suga. It's a big deal, but it's not for the belt. It's not against the current champion. I think you could say Conor prior to that, he fought Dustin, wasn't a former champion. Dennis Seaver wasn't a former champion. This feels more like Chad Mendez, but he wasn't a former champion either, but it was for the interim belt. And that felt a little, no. Aldo is in Petr Yan. I feel like that's disrespectful to Petr, but guess what? He's a promoter and he's supposed to promote things so that you and I talk about it and debate it and, get all worked up over it. That's what a promoter is supposed to do. So yes, I do believe if Suga wins and especially if it's in emphatic fashion, I believe that they will justify a title shot. And by the way, I wouldn't mind a title shot. I wouldn't care if I think it's warranted. Now, that would be against either TJ Aljo. I think he probably has a better chance against TJ. Aljo with the wrestling, with the grappling, might give him a hard time. I think there's a lot of questions. It's not even, it's like there's no point in actually trying to break all this down because there's so many different permutations. If Jan wins and Aljo wins, I don't know if they go back to that well right away. If O'Malley wins and either guy wins, then I think they'll give him a title shot. It's a big fight. It's the biggest fight on the biggest stage of his career. I think it's a little much to compare it, but I get why he would do that, and it's fine. Nothing to get worked up over. Abe, hello, Ariel. Dana said the Jan versus O'Malley fight winner gets the next title shot. I understand O'Malley's star power, but where does Marlon Chito Vera fit into all of this? If I'm Marlon, I'm a little bit worked up, but maybe it's Corey next, and he's one away. Since losing to Vera, O'Malley beat 3 guys outside the top 20. Drew with Munoz. I'd argue consecutive wins versus Grant, Edgar, and Font and Cruz should put Vera ahead. Yeah. Listen, I love Cheeto, so. Also, if Jan and Sterling win, I can't see a trilogy happening. I agree. And I kind of think it's too soon. By the way, can I just say something? I would love to see Jan versus Merab. There's some real heat there with Jan and Merab. I even saw Jan say hello to Aljo and then kind of give Merab the cold shoulder. Like, I think there could be, and there's obviously the historical, geographical backstory as well. That would be a fascinating one. Also from a stylistic standpoint, he obviously wasn't very complimentary of Merab. And there's Triple C. P.S. I say this as a huge Aljo fan. I think he should stop reading the comment section. Couldn't agree more. Much love, your boy Abe. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. The quote, retweets, and all that, especially on fight week. Like, man, put the phone away for your own sake, for your own sanity. Barbershop Vince says, hey, mate, first-time subscriber, long-time content consumer from Perth, Western Australia. Do you believe the UFC will be able to convince Islam to fight Volk in Perth? Shall he be successful this weekend? Although they'll fight in the morning here, it's not an ideal time slot for his main fan base. And it's a huge distance to travel from the UAE or Dagestan. I think they will. Obviously he's got Ali by his side, and I'm sure Ali's going to do what's best for his client. But I think they will. But I'm not going to say it's 100%, but I think that they'll be able to convince him. Where it gets really interesting is if Charles wins. Thanks for all that you and the team do. It keeps me sane whilst working away from home in the mines. Wow. God bless, my friend. Thank you. Daniel. Word up, Ariel. If Charles beats Islam, do you think he is the genuine lightweight GOAT? Consider not only the finishes, the 11 win streak, but also most submissions in UFC history. He's in the discussion. I don't know. Personally, I don't think his early losses should count against him. If he had been beating cans in a small organization, would that really make his legacy any better? Stylistically, I would say Islam is the hardest matchup for him, 100%. Also, oat milk is disgusting. Oats don't even have nipples. Wow. I saw a video of someone like breaking down all the different types of oat, almond, rice, pea milk. Frank, did you know there was pea milk?
Yeah, there has been pea milk in my house.
Have you tried it?
I refuse to.
There's just something about pea milk that kind of turns me off. Oats,
and like the branding for it, like they're going all in with the whole pea thing.
Yeah,
Weird.
aren't peas a vegetable?
Yeah,
doesn't work for me. I draw the line. I used to be a big rice milk guy, but that was like 15 years ago.
Is oat your king for non-dairy milks?
Depends on the brand.
It's a little sweet, don't you think?
I'd say almond is sweeter than oat.
Yeah, I go plain oat if I'm gonna do oat. I can't lie. I think oat has officially passed skim milk for me.
Skim milk, gross.
Yeah, not much going on there. I had a bowl of cereal the other night with skim milk, and
It's like water.
Yeah, it's just,
You're a big cereal at night guy.
Oh man, love cereal, especially at night. I think it might be better at night than it is in the morning.
What brand we eating?
That night it was Frosted Flakes.
We're going to old school like sugar cereal.
Oh, yeah, what do you think I'm eating? Bran Flakes or something?
Yeah.
No, Puffins.
Oh, God,
no Puffins? I love Puffins.
If I'm going to eat cereal, it's going to be like a dessert. My go-to all-time favorite is Reese's Puffs.
Wow.
Captain Crunch. Love a good Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Fruit Loops are all right. I'm more of the...
Fruity Pebbles?
Fruity Pebbles are all right. I would rather go Cocoa Pebbles.
Cocoa Pebbles.
Not Count
Reese's
Chocula.
Puffs, though, just look for the bright orange box. That's what I'm going for every time.
Count Chocula?
Not as big on that.
You ever have oatmeal squares?
No.
You can't just make up cereal.
No, that's a great one.
So if Special K is good, they try to pass that off as healthy, but
K New York, right?
No. Yeah, seriously.
oh yeah, I forgot
There's a box of it right next to you.
Yeah, he says that's king. What a nut.
Yeah, that is weird. I don't even know how we started talking about this, but it's all very weird. Ahmad. Salam alaikum, Ara. Wa alaikum salam. 2 quick questions. If TJ wins the belt in Abu Dhabi, is he the 35 GOAT? You know, he said this. Let me see here, TJ Dillashaw. Now, here's the thing. He's lost. Let me see. How many title defenses? So, he wins the belt against Barral. He defends it against Soto. He defends it against Barral. And then he loses to Cruz. Then he wins the belt back against Garbrandt. So, wins the belt against Barral. Defends against Soto. Defends against Barral. Loses to Cruz. Then he wins a couple years later against Garbrandt. Defends against Garbrandt. And then loses to Cejudo. But that was at 25. So, in total, 3 title defenses. In total. Dominic wins the WEC bantamweight title, which I'm going to consider the same because there was no UFC bantamweight title and he was fighting a who's who. Beats Joseph Benavidez in 2009. Defends against Bowles. Defends against Benavidez. Defends against Jorgensen. Defends against Faber. Defends against DJ. That's 5. Got stripped because of the injuries. Never lost. Beats Mizugaki. Beats TJ. Regains the belt. Beats Faber. Successfully defends it. Loses to Cody. Loses to... I think TJ is great. Obviously, the issue will, always... The PD issue will always follow him. My vote is Dominic Cruz. Number 2, do you think this year's UFC pay-per-views have been lackluster compared to 2021? Much love to you and the boys. There's still a couple left. Obviously, we'll see what happens with 282. I feel like they're pretty equal. What do you guys think? These were the pay-per-views last year. Poirier McGregor, big time. Usman Burns, Apex. March pay-per-view was Miocic Ngannou. That was a pretty good one. Actually, there were 2 in March. Blachowicz Adesanya, yeah, that was a pretty good one. Usman Masvidal was stacked. That was in Jacksonville. Yeah, maybe a little. Yeah, you were missing some big names. So maybe a little bit, but not by a lot. Anytime you don't have Conor fighting for an entire year, it's going to take a bit of a hit. Andres, Shalom Ariel, question for GC this week. Nice. Since UFC 280 is an early start time for us on the EST time zone, not GMT, EST, I'm curious to know what GC has planned for food this weekend. Wow. Little did he know. Traditional UAE breakfast/lunch. What's the plan this weekend, GC? Side note, I really hope the Parlay Pals get back on track this weekend or else we might need to start a GoFundMe page so Frank can afford his next haircut. Wow. Much love to you all. As always, there's no show like the MMA Hour.
Unbelievable question. Is there a traditional UAE breakfast lunch?
Oh,
Is
let me
there
tell
a
you
thing
something.
I could go to?
Oh, let me tell you something. I've had the pleasure of visiting the Middle East on many occasions, and Abu Dhabi in particular. The food there, and in particular the breakfast. The hotel that we stayed at in Abu Dhabi was 5-star plus, and the lebne. You ever have lebne?
No, never even heard of it.
Oh, it's tremendous. It's like a yogurt. You ever have olives? Yes, but you never had. Have you had Mediterranean olives?
Like Kalamata olives?
Not the same. Not the same. That was a very sort of uninformed statement on your part. That's a little Greek. That's a little Greek. Have you ever had manouche bezatar?
No.
Oh, you're missing out. Have you ever had zatar?
No.
Za'atar bread. Yeah,
Everything that you're saying right now, it's the first time I've ever words have ever even hit my ear.
Wow. I
would love to try all of this.
A Middle Eastern, yes. Someone needs to tell GC where he can get a good Middle Eastern breakfast.
There has to be some. Andy is shaking her head emphatically, yes, that she's got me covered.
There we go.
Is that what I'm going to do before I come in here?
So that's the thing. I wasn't included in any of these plans, but maybe a nice little spread,
That's what I was hoping for.
Can we get a little baklava?
Oh,
You know,
Now we're really talking.
we get a little.
I was thinking throw some Eggos in the toaster, you know, some
Eggos in
waffle
the
and coffees
toaster.
with
Jeez.
some morning fights. But it sounds like we're gonna have to do this big.
No.
So you stop by in the morning, Ariel, with all of these.
Can we get a little sahlab? You know,
You find me where to buy it, I'm gonna buy it. I'll get it delivered.
there's got to
here
be a place.
Saturday.
Someone hit up GC at Conor Burks on Twitter, Instagram. Tell him where to go on Saturday morning. Oh yeah. Oh, of course. You're correct with the great call. You got to go to maybe my favorite restaurant outside of the city, as we've already discussed. Outside of in the city, it's Sasabune, right? We've talked about this. You went. You had a great time. Cafe Mogador in Williamsburg is that spot. I was literally just describing a Mogador breakfast. I used to live 5 blocks from Cafe Mogador in Brooklyn. I'm assuming neither of you have been. Andy,
I
have you
not
been? Anyone?
No.
Oh, it's just
Those all
amazing.
around.
By the way, if you can make it over to Mogador on a Saturday morning,
Frankie?
heaven
You guys need to stop
must
on
be
Saturday morning and bring it up
like
here.
this.
No,
So-
Frankie. We meet at Mogador Saturday morning before we come in here.
Yes.
I'm talking early, bright and early. Get your paper, get your coffee.
Yes.
Cafe Mogador.
Oh,
Jet over here, 30 minutes before the fight starts. And then 10 o'clock, we're kicking it off.
yes.
No.
No.
Really?
Just
This
cut
is
it
actually,
close.
what are we cutting close?
Yeah, what are you cutting close?
You got a late Friday night planned?
I do actually.
Wow.
This guy with his plans. Smashing peas, late night Fridays.
Yeah, that is weird. That is weird. Let me tell you something. If you can't do it on Saturday, do it Sunday. It's very busy, and make sure you sit in the back. The back is just divine. I actually celebrated my 30th birthday there, way back in the day. Yesterday, I was doing some video thing with a woman. I don't think I could say who it was or what it was for, but anyway, I've never felt older than in that moment. I was talking to her. She's in the world of baseball, and I was talking to her about the Expos in 2004. She had no idea what I was talking about, and I was like, "I'm not that old. Am I that old? Am I that guy now who's talking about Vladimir Guerrero's dad?" And I was watching his dad play, and I guess I'm that old. And now I just said I celebrated my 30th birthday, and that was 10 years ago. I guess I'm old now. Am I the old guy now? Like, can I not get away with the same stuff that I got away with a few years ago? I feel like for the longest time I was the young guy.
You might be past the threshold. No.
Wow.
See,
Anyway.
the fact that it offends you is a sign that you're past the threshold.
I feel great. Going to a trainer twice a week. Never been stronger. Lifting weights, doing burpees, all kinds of things. Can almost do one pull-up. I've almost hit that mark.
I hate to keep going back to this.
Yeah.
Cafe Mogador
This
has
is
a
incredible.
Manhattan location now.
Wow. What?
See, that
Right
changes
near here,
things.
Frank.
No way.
Where?
Where?
I talked into that.
I mean,
Where?
it's easier to get to than Williamsburg.
Well, it's
on
in
a
a
Saturday
Bowery. It's
morning.
not right near here, but this is something we could do for sure.
That's easier.
Wow.
So, Ariel,
All right,
why don't you
Frank, I'll
just
see you
load
Saturday
up
morning.
the area mobile and bring us a whole catering spread?
Yeah, I would love to. We got soccer Saturday. Big day of soccer. Actually, 3 games on Sunday. It's a little tournament. I know we're talking Saturday, but listen, I can't vouch for the Manhattan location. Never been. The Williamsburg one is tremendous. Go get a little coffee afterwards, a little cappuccino. Check out the Smorgasburg. Have you been to the Smorgasburg?
No.
Neither of you?
No, I've been told about it many times by Ariel Helwani, though.
I mean, are you even living in Brooklyn if you're not going to the Smorgasburg? Lewis, hi Ariel. The last 2 UFC Apex events, UFC Apex 61 and Apex 62. I think that's another reason why I hate the Apex is because they call it UFC Vegas, and there's been 100 more events in Vegas. All of a sudden, we're supposed to ignore those events. Like, what's up with that? Had main events between top 10 women in their weight divisions. One is coming up in 10 minutes, by the way, Alexa Grasso. And there have been a couple of women's pay-per-view events since then, main events. Since 2020, UFC 277, Pena versus Nunes 250, Nunes Spencer. What do you think could be the next women's matchup that could potentially headline a pay-per-view event? What about Amanda Nunes versus Valentina Shevchenko? If Charles Oliveira loses, and all of a sudden you have a situation where you need a big main event title fight for 283, Nunes, Shevchenko, Moreno, Figueiredo, for right underneath Nunes, Shevchenko. Now, okay, let me ask you guys. If you got Nunes, Shevchenko 3, on the same bill as Moreno Figueiredo 4. What's the main event?
Wow.
I say Nunes.
I'm gonna go. Oh,
You say Moreno Figueiredo?
I'm gonna go Moreno Figueiredo. Yeah.
No, I mean the trilogy, champion versus champion.
Quadrilogy. Is that the word?
Yeah, but it's champion versus champion. Well, that's champion versus champion too. Interim versus. No, I say you got to go with it. You got to go with the women.
Are we gonna get 3 title fights that night?
I think it's possible. I definitely think it's possible. Gym leader Tom. Hello, Ariel. Well, now that there's no Glover Yuri. And by the way, that's true. They wanted Yuri to go to Brazil, and he said no. Is Yuri the most fascinating guy in MMA right now?
He's got to be up there. Yeah. I mean, you go 3 days without
3 days in the dark
light
with no food.
I mean,
I wanted to ask him that picture that he took. Seemed like there was light in there, but I guess if there was a flash.
Also, who took the picture? He said he was by himself.
Right. What about bathroom? Also, I noticed some books. Did you notice books to his right?
Yeah, how do you read in the dark?
Yeah. Anyway, gym leader Tom. Hello, Ariel. I personally don't like how the UFC frequently does immediate rematches of championship fights, whether it be the likes of long-term champs Nunes Pena, likely Edwards Usman. I saw this one thing where Ali said that Usman is open to fighting Leon Edwards in England next. I was like, what? I don't know if it's his call anymore, you know? Anyway, or short-term, Yuri Glover. To me, it just feels like hitting the reset button, even though the pay-per-view buys may go up. Why is it they look to book these more frequently than just embracing a new champion and giving up top contenders a rightful shot? I mean, sometimes it's a situation, in this case, where you have Nunes and Usman, who obviously deserve it because they were champions for a long time. The Glover one, I think the fight was so good, there wasn't a clear-cut number one. He's a legend. He's going to retire. Every situation is different, but they don't always go back to the well. I get what you're saying. Moreno Figueiredo. I don't know. They're going for the biggest fight. Taco enthusiast. Hi, Ariel. I couldn't agree more with your comments regarding fights at the Apex. Thank you. And the long-term implications for the UFC of holding events without fans. It's so frustrating to shell out thousands of dollars a year on ESPN Plus and pay-per-view to then be rewarded with noiseless, soulless, subpar cards. You tell him, Taco. The UFC will be king for quite some time, but I really feel like their mafia-esque business decisions, his words, not mine, all right, are creating a ton of opportunity for the PFL if run correctly. I mean, they got a long ways to go to fill a gap and create an even more fan-driven product. Do you see the PFL becoming a legitimate competitor in the next 10 years? 10, I mean, a lot can happen in 10 years. Thanks. And GC, how about them Falcons? Don't drop your fandom. Are you officially done with the Falcons?
Absolutely not. I am with the Bills for 1 year only. We're riding this Super Bowl ticket out. How about my Falcons? Not only are they 3-3, exceeding everybody's expectations, they're 6-0 against the spread.
Wow.
Marcus Mariota, he's back to his Heisman days, 13 for 14 on Sunday. An absurdity to say that I've deserted the Falcons. I'm just hitching my Super Bowl ticket to the Bills.
We appreciate that. We need
Von
all the
Miller
support.
jersey. I'm only here for 1 year.
All right. You're not here for a long time. You're here for a good time. By the way, why were they drinking beer after their last win? Everyone was making a big deal about that.
Yeah, they made an agreement that if they won and they rushed for over 100 yards, the offensive line and head coach Arthur Smith could go to like the club level bar and drink beers before they go to the locker room.
Really?
Yeah, and it happened, so they did it.
That's pretty amazing. Do you like their owner?
Arthur Blank?
Yeah.
Oh,
Legend,
yeah.
Right?
Legend. Atlanta United brought us a title with them.
Didn't he fly out the entire organization when they made it to the Super Bowl a couple years ago? That was a big thing.
Yeah.
Like everyone, secretaries, like.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he's an Atlanta legend. Home Depot and everything.
He owns Home Depot?
Yeah, that's how he got all his money.
Wow. Good for him. Great mustache, too.
Oh, yeah. Great mustache, great suits. Great guy.
Yeah. Never met him, though.
That is true. I've never met him.
It's just like, it's automatic at this point. It's incredible. By the way, did you guys know, I can't believe this. I just read this. Did you guys know that Mr. Rogers used to be in the Navy? Tatted up,
Yeah,
just
like
sniper, killed guy. I never knew that. That's crazy. Just like a whole other life that we never knew about. Used to drink before the show. He was completely like wasted. It's crazy.
It's all in the movie.
It's in the movie. Never saw the
You
movie.
had to read him his lines. Too.
Yeah. PFL, still ways to go. I don't think the UFC is too bothered by their presence. witness the fact that, they just like let Aspen Ladd go and all these people. But look, you got to keep it consistent. You got to keep building, making money, sponsorship, ticket sales. That's the one thing. Like, I don't know if they're making a ton off ticket sales, and they're paying out a lot, especially in the championship fights. So let's see. Still not ready to, bury the likes of Bellator as well. Big money. Ariel, really enjoyed your Bills game recap rant last week, but was shocked to hear of your first blue cheese experience in Buffalo. Even the boys in the back were appalled when we all heard the dreaded ranch over blue cheese interview reply. A classic no-no in Western New York, to say the least. Thankfully, I rescinded and I apologize for my error. So I hope you all saw that. Wings, especially buffalo wings in Buffalo, can only be enjoyed with blue cheese respectfully. The chunkier, the better. I noticed that too. A lot of chunk. Tasted nothing like blue cheese in a salad. Just wondering if you received any backlash about this in the following days. Did the official Bills IG unfollow you? We can forgive, but probably won't forget. Thanks and go Bills. Hashtag Blue Cheese Gate. No, I think this was a great lesson to everyone involved. I got ahead of it. I spoke about it before the video even came out. So I think that it's a lesson to anyone who's aired, who's a cheater, whatever. It's like Andy Pettit. When he got caught, he came out, and I don't think people remember him in the same light as, those people who are deniers like Barry Bonds, Mark McGuire, etc. I came out, I said, mea culpa, my bad. I'm mistaken. I've erred. I didn't know what it was. I misspoke. I was out of turn. All right. So if anything, I've received more praise for my integrity. And it feels like I've really been embraced by the good people of Buffalo and Western New York in general, the 716, if you will. And of course, we all know that there's only one team in the great state of New York who is playing in the NFL right now, and that's the Buffalo Bills. Shout out to Nottingham Forest, by the way. Big draw yesterday against Brighton. The ship is being steered as we speak. But no backlash. Bills fans are a lot more sensible than the freakazoids. They listen to you in full. They don't take your words out of context, and they don't just like pick and choose what they're going to listen to. They say, hey, this is a good guy. He means well. He made a mistake. Let's give him a break. And, I appreciate that. And that's why I am proud to be a member of Bills Mafia. Also, want to give a special shout out to Spencer Hawes, who works for the Bills in the equipment department. He sent me an unbelievable package. I was just blown away. I mean, the stuff that I got in here, shoes, sandals, hats, gear, pants, sweatshirts, shirts, stuff for my wife, stuff for the kids. Big MMA fan, even gave us gloves, guys. Gave us gloves at the game, came up to me at the game, but it was very brief. Here's some gloves for the family. Told me in the letter that he wrote handwritten, so he's a mensch. He's an absolute salt of the earth individual. Handwritten, he wrote to me that those gloves they were done for Shady McCoy, LaShawn McCoy back in the day, custom made by Nike. He gave me 3 pairs. I mean, just an absolute mensch of a gentleman. Spencer Hawes of the Buffalo Bills, thank you so much. Meant the world. I feel so much love, such an embracing. You get what I'm trying to say. So much positivity and love from the entire Bills organization. I would do anything for them. If Terry Pegula called me right now to speak on behalf of him and his family for whatever reason, I don't care what it is, blind request, I'm on the first plane out. I'm landing in Buffalo. We're breaking bread. I'm doing whatever he wants. That's the love that I have for the Pegulas, Bills Mafia, the whole organization, the whole state, the entire region of Western New York, including Niagara and, Toronto as well. Mount Sinai asks, Shalom, Ariel. Well, I didn't get the job that you gave me the advice for last week, so my natural follow-up question is, how do you personally deal with failure or being rejected from a job? Also, any thoughts on Seungwoo Choi? Noah, by the way, just read this. And I'm not just trying to plug Funky's book, but there's a lot of good lessons. I've lost jobs. I've been rejected. It has all happened. And you use them as fire. You use them as motivation. You take that rejection, you put it as a big fat chip on your shoulder, and you go show them that they screwed up. You don't lick your wounds. You don't feel sorry for yourself. You go out there, you seize the day, you seize the moment, you overcome the obstacle, and good things will happen. As Dominic said, the world mirrors you, right? Good vibe, positive. tends to give back. George, don't rush. St. Pierre says, Lord Ariel, I was asked this question in my friend group and it generated a lively debate and hoped you and the team at MMA Hour could give your thoughts on this hot topic. If you are having a pizza with only one topping, what would you choose? I said extra cheese, which is a horrible choice. What? You already have cheese. Extra cheese is just, you're being greedy. Anyway, and was ridiculed at length. I agree, because apparently that's not a legitimate topping. Disagree with that, but I kind of agree. I just think that's a horrible. I have never in my life asked for extra cheese on a pizza. You guys?
Absolutely have.
Extra cheese?
In addition to toppings, yeah.
That is.
I'm not going to go just extra cheese, but yeah, I've had extra cheese. Like you're ordering from a Papa John's at Domino's or something?
I have never asked that. Well, the question is extra cheese a topping, and what would you and the boys pick? Well, in my opinion, extra cheese is not a topping. That's just extra of something. It's not a topping. It's just more cheese. Cheese is typically a staple of the pizza. You're just asking for more of it. That's not a topping.
Yeah, we are in alignment there. I agree with you.
Mushroom, olives, pepperoni, etc. Mine is a no-brainer. Green olives. Has to be green, not black. Hate black olives.
Nice and briny, huh?
Yeah. I like the green. My ultimate pizza, as I've said before, is green olives and pineapple. Like I start to get like a sensation in my throat. I get so excited when I just think of olives and pineapple. Green olives and pineapple. If I had to pick one, I'm going green olives. If they don't have green olives, I would rather pineapple over black olives. What do you guys think? GC?
I mean, I absolutely love pineapple on my pizzas. That would probably be my go-to. So I still have to try this pineapple and olives. But I mean, if I'm ordering for
salty?
If I'm ordering for a party, yeah, I'm gonna do like a pepperoni. I'm gonna do a classic.
Classic pepperoni.
Yeah, staple.
Extra cheese?
Now, do I get to? We're not counting that as a topping.
No.
Let's throw extra cheese on there. Thank you.
Weird. What about
appreciate you asking.
Stuffed crust?
Oh God, are we doing extra cheese and stuffed crust? We're just canceling
lot.
tomorrow. We ain't doing anything the next
day.
day. I'm down, honestly.
What about you, Frank?
Mushroom pizza.
Mushroom.
Yeah.
Straight mushroom?
Straight mushroom.
Interesting. There's different kinds of mushroom. Like there's ones that are sort of marinated. Those are good. But if they're too dry, I don't like that. But you just like the mushroom.
Mushroom.
All right. What about, you know what I hate? You know what would piss me off? We'd order pizza every Sunday night. That was our thing from Domino's. Domino's in Canada are way better than Domino's in the States, by the way. And sometimes they would mistake the green olives for green peppers. I mean, it's so dressed. It's
forgivable.
So upsetting. You open it up and it's like, oh, green peppers. It's a totally different taste.
There's almost no taste associated with the peppers. I mean, if you're getting a supreme pizza, the peppers are just...
That's not true. The peppers have a flavor.
Hot peppers I like.
No, just like a bell pepper.
Bell pepper, it's crunch.
There's nothing. It's like a water crunch. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Christian asks, hi, Ariel. Hope all is well with you and the boys during this hectic but Super Bowl-esque week in MMA. Been rather quiet, but Saturday morning can't come soon enough. Question for you. A recent story came out highlighting Philadelphia Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts and his all-female management team. Yes, he explained how influential they've been to his success so far in the NFL, both on and off the field. This got me wondering, are there any leading females in the MMA management space that we don't know of or hear of? If not, who do you see that could be some of the first to change the current landscape of management in MMA? Go Pats. Christian. Yes, there's actually one young woman. Her name is B Nguyen, Killer B or Killa B MMA on Instagram, Twitter. She has fought for one championship. She is getting into MMA management, has been working with KO reps, Oren Hodak, represent the likes of Kevin Holland and Terrence McKinney they just signed, among many others. And she is I've talked to her about this. I've actually told her she's having a retirement fund. And I told her that afterwards I'd love to have her on because there aren't a lot of female representative. There's another one, Jennifer, aka JG. She's worked for Ballingy Group. She's worked for Vayner. She has worked as a long time. Not Vayner. Ballingy Group and CAA, and now possibly doing some other stuff because CAA is no longer in the combat business, the representative business. She's been around for a long time, but I think B will be a very interesting person to follow because she is a soon-to-be former fighter, so she knows that side of things. She was even in Survivor back in the day, and She's got strong opinions. I don't think she'll be pushed around. I don't think she'll be intimidated. I think she knows a lot about the game, trains at Extreme Couture. So I'm very curious to see how her foray into the world of MMA management is concerned. So obviously not a ton, very male-dominated, but I think that's a great story on Hertz. I saw that. I think it was Front Office Sports that wrote about it, and I'd love to see more women representing the athletes in MMA. There was also someone in GSP's camp back in the day, Shari Spencer. She also represented Frankie Edgar as well. Didn't end well, but there have been some. But watch out for B. I think B could be a player. Nick. Hi, Ariel. Hi, Ariel. Do you know if there are any hygiene rules before fights? Do fighters have to shower, etc.? I'm sure if they were riddled with BO before the fight starts, it could be used as an advantage if it goes to the mat. Just imagine. Yeah. I know I've heard of people not showering. I've heard of people not brushing their teeth. These are all, to the best of my knowledge, fair game. Now, things like Vaseline, all that stuff on your body, that isn't fair game. But to the best of my knowledge, other than just common courtesy, there are no rules. And if you're going to go to those lengths, I mean, golly, that is intense. Imagine not showering for days and not brushing your teeth. Could probably work, right?
Definitely.
Yeah. Would you do that?
No, I have questioned some of these rules before, like other ways to get out of a grapple.
Yeah.
Or hold. Stop it.
Oh my. Ariel from Christopher Walker. Greetings from Cardiff. Long time, first time. I've been listening since 2015. Thanks for the 5+ hours of weekly entertainment. We were going to go 5 today, but Frank has plans. I was particularly buzzing when you talked about your visit to Cardiff. I'm a Cardiff native and hoped to meet you, but I was away traveling around California in a camper van at the time. Wow, I love a good camper van. I saw one in Buffalo with the Bills logo on it. It was tremendous. 2 Wales-based questions for you. Any update on the Edwards versus Usman 2 card being held at Principality Stadium in Cardiff? I have not heard that as an option. I think it would be a great option. I hear England. Obviously, Wales is part of the UK. I hear England, but I think it would be a great option because there's a roof. And I was at Principality Stadium. It's in an amazing location. It's like right in the center of Cardiff. There's all these cool things, architecture, castles, shops, restaurants around. It's very easily accessible, and there's a roof. So they're always worried about the rain. Don't have to worry. But no, I haven't heard. 2, what are your thoughts on Jack Shore moving up to 145? Yes, our guy Jack Tank Shore announcing on his video blog that he's moving up. He was ranked at 35. Where do you see him stacking up against the 145ers? And then he writes something in Welsh, which I'm going to butcher. Diolch yin far. Thank you very much. I tried my best. Like it. I'm curious to see how it goes. He was doing so well at 35, undefeated for so long, said that the weight cuts were affecting him. Those are some big boys at 45, some very big boys at 45. Don't feel like he has to, reinvent everything. It was just one loss to a really good fighter named Ricky Simone. So I don't feel like he has to, drastically change his career. Usually you do that kind of move when you feel like you have to, but maybe the weight cuts were getting too tough and he wants to feel stronger. He wants to feel healthier on fight night. So let's see how it goes. Curious. Hard to say that I love it or hate it without seeing it in action. We'll have a better sense once he makes the move. Gabe. Shalom, Ariel. First time questionnaire. Your charm and suave finally convinced me to send in a question. Wow, how about that? I seem to have noticed that some fighters are quickly forgiven for cheating by the MMA community while others are never able to live it down. Frankly, I think anyone who cheats their entire, I think anyone after who cheats, I think anyone who cheats their entire purse should be taken away and given to the other fighter. Brock Lesnar walking away with millions from the Mark Hunt fight while having used steroids and overtly denying it is one of the best examples. I also think anyone after John Jones who cheats should be disqualified from the UFC Hall of Fame or any other MMA awards. What are your thoughts on this phenomenon? I mean, yes, I think it depends on how they are viewed. I think for the most part, MMA has been quite lenient towards steroid users and we're quick to move past it, unlike in baseball where even if you were never caught, you are branded as a cheater for life based on suspicion alone and can't get into the Hall of Fame. Now, we can't compare the UFC Hall of Fame to the Baseball Hall of Fame because the restrictions are, like the requirements, I should say, to get in are incredibly different. I mean, there's an actual committee, there's a voting process. The UFC Hall of Fame is just like one guy deciding or two. It's totally different. Again, the UFC Hall of Fame is more like, the retired jerseys for an NBA or NFL team, or the Wall of Fame, whatever you want to say. But we are pretty lenient, and some of the greatest fighters of all time have tested positive, and over time it's just sort of forgotten about. Anderson Silva, John Jones, Brock Lesnar. You could almost come up with like 2 greatest of all time lists. And, I don't know why that is. I think the more popular fighters will be excused quicker than the less popular fighters. It's just a thing. So I don't know about the entire purse. I'm not against it. I don't know who would ever agree to that stipulation, but like we spoke about earlier, the fighters don't really have much of a say in anything. So if the UFC wanted to make that a rule, I'm sure a lot of people would think twice. So it ain't the worst idea. And the Hall of Fame, again, MMA Hall of Fame, it's hard. It's like TJ. Does everything before he tested positive just get thrown out? Is that fair? I don't know if that's fair. But then you could say, like, how do you know when he started? Who knows? Honestly, Baseball Hall of Fame, like, I think Barry Bonds should be in the Baseball Hall of Fame. It's part of the history of the game. He broke records. Barry Bonds should be in the Baseball Hall of Fame. I think Roger Clemens. Some of these guys weren't good dudes, but, like, you can't deny their place in history. So I don't agree with keeping them out of the Hall of Fame. But it's important to talk about it and to remember it and not just brush it, to the side. Last one, Jason B. Happy On the Nose Day, Ariel. Not going to lie, On the Nose is probably one of the greatest media segments in the biz right now. Wow, probably, huh? All right. Means we have to work a little harder. It seems so simple, but nobody else is doing this in other sports media platforms, and I'm grateful you continue to be a man of the people and haven't gotten big time on your listeners, so thank you. No one else is doing this? I'm just answering questions. I feel like other people are doing this, but I'll take the compliment. 2 quick questions. Maybe I'm just a mark here, but I can't remember a card that I was more excited about in the last 3 years than 280. That's ridiculous. You're just living in the moment. I can guarantee you've been as excited. Like, let's not get crazy here, guys. People are talking about this card like it's UFC 200. It's great. And don't make me crap on it, but let's not get crazy here, guys. It's great. But there have been cards I can assure you that you've been as excited for, if not more. When was the last time you've been this excited for a UFC card? I don't know. When Francis fought Cyril Gane in January. I don't know. What do you want me to say? It's a great card. Why do we always have to compare it? It's great, but it's a little top heavy. Is that a bad thing to say? Is it not top heavy? Again, it's going to sound like I'm crapping on it. It's a great card, and it's nice to see some depth. 5 amazing fights, 6 if you count the flyweight fight. Love it. Second question, all respect to Volk for wanting to attack the double champ status. He certainly has the resume to call a shot. However, what does this do to the rest of the lightweight division contenders? If Beneil wins, that's 8 in a row for him. Does he face the winner of Chandler Poirier to solidify the next challenger? Would love to hear your thoughts. Thanks again for all that you do for combat sports. So here's the thing. If Charles wins, there aren't a lot of guys left. He's fought a lot of them, so I don't hate it. If Islam wins, yes, there's a backlog. If Beneil wins and Charles wins, yes, Beneil would be bummed. But this has happened before. I don't hate it as much if Charles wins, and I honestly think that Volk has earned the shot. If he's going to go through this trouble, he's earned it. Pound for pound best, featherweight king, fly all the way to Abu Dhabi, you've earned it. If you're going to sit back and just be like, give it to me, all right, we can have a discussion. He's earned it, in my opinion. And again, for the 10th time this week, it gets really interesting. If Charles wins, there's a whole set of circumstances that need to play out. Brazil card January, February, Perth. If Islam wins, is he going to go to Perth? If Charles wins, is Volk going to go to Brazil? Do you then just do Charles in Brazil and Alex in Perth? If Islam wins, he's going up. Now Charles is talking about him coming down to 45. a lot needs to play out. And you know what's great about it all? We will have all the answers to all these questions come Monday. Well, really come Saturday night, but we'll be back with you on Monday. So I can't wait for that. And that's a perfect way to end today's show.